Well, hello from beautiful East Central Missouri. You can see it's a gorgeous day here, and we're going to talk today a little bit about a gun that I think is kind of cool. And we're going to go get in the way back machine and talk about my dope cop days. So back, and if I seem like I'm yelling at you, I've got a different set of earplugs in. I left my other ones up at the house and had to use a spare set by the time I got all the way down here. But back in 2002, so here's what prompted this. I've had a lot of questions about our firearms policy at my agency and whether or not some of these guns I shoot that I say I'm going to carry are allowed by policy and how our policy works. And the pollen's terrible. Our policy is pretty liberal and generous when it comes to off-duty and when it comes to plain clothes assignments. And it's pretty open. So plain clothes and off-duty, pretty much almost anything goes, provided you can qualify with it. You have to be able to shoot our qualification course with it. And that prompted me to thinking about, back in my narcotics days, I worked narcotics. I was assigned to narcotics from 2002 to 2006. And what I carried then, and I got rid of the gun that I carried. When I left the unit, I sold my gun to a guy that came into the unit because he needed it worse than I did. But so we're going to spend time loading, shooting, and talking. So the gun that I carried, well, let me back up. So the policy was written that way. So if you were assigned to like narcotics, we did a lot of undercover work back then, and you didn't want to be carrying what was viewed as a cop gun, right? So back in 2002, the most popular guns out there were the baby Glocks, which those are a cop gun. And the 5-shot was still pretty popular, the 5-shot 38 J-frame type stuff. But bad guys all kind of viewed those as cop guns. And you didn't want to go into an undercover situation carrying what was viewed as a cop gun. So we had some guys carrying Beretta Tomcats in 32. Some guys carried Walther PPKs in 32 and some in 380. But I carried the Kel-Tec P32. Cute little gun, right? This is not the gun that I carried. The gun that I carried, man, the finish was worn off of it. I carried it for 4 years in my pocket and sweated on it, and it was abused, something horrible, but it was a flawless little gun. But then I went into a local gun shop, about a week and a half ago, and there sat a brand new Kel-Tec P32 in the case. And I think I walked away with it for like $240 or something. Chambered in 32. I put the belt clip on it, and we'll talk about that here in a second. But, I was always worried, or we were always worried about getting patted down by a bad guy. Like, we would go to people's houses and buy drugs from them, and they would want to make sure that you weren't wearing a wire or you weren't a cop or whatever, and they would actually pat you down. Never happened to me, but it happened to some of our guys and gals. So you always tried to carry something that didn't look like a cop gun, right? So dopers carry guns, we all know that. But we always tried to carry something that wasn't a traditional cop gun. So our policy was written very liberally for plainclothes assignments and off-duty. So one of the reasons I chose this gun is because, what cop would carry a Kel-Tec, right? Cops don't carry Kel-Tecs. They're kind of cheaply made, and they're actually pretty cheap to purchase, to be honest with you. But the one that I had in 32 was completely reliable. At that time, this was kind of new to the market. It wasn't totally brand new, but it was kind of new. And they a little bit later, came out with the 380. I think the P3AT, P3A Adam T Tom, which was the P380. And I shot one thinking maybe I'd upgrade to the 380, but it was much harder to control. It wasn't much bigger than this, but the bullet was a lot heavier, and you can see that, I can only get about one full finger and maybe half of another on this gun. And I started doing a little bit of research, and the 32 ACP was a super popular round for a lot of years. As a matter of fact, some European police departments carried the 32 ACP up into the 70s for police work. And there's a lot of people in graveyards today that aren't walking amongst us anymore because of the lowly 32. And there will be people that will get on and comment and say, that's not enough gun for personal defense, blah, 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 blah. It depends, right? So I've said this for a long time. The best gun you can possibly have for a gunfight is the one that you will carry. I carried this very similar to the same gun, just not this gun, every day for 4 years. I carried it on duty, off duty. The only time I carried a full-size pistol was if we were going to serve a search warrant, and I was a part of that group. But that's a different matter than working undercover and being in a plainclothes role, right? So I absolutely staked my life on this little 32 ACP. Now, this gun does print a little low for me, and it's been a long time since I've shot one. The sights on this are not much better than a channel. You got, a little baby rear sight milled into the back of the slide, and then a little bitty baby front sight milled into the front. So the sights are not what I would consider super great. You're not going to go shoot target with it, but our target is about 5, maybe 5.5 yards. So one of the reasons I chose this gun was when I worked narcotics, I always figured that, especially working undercover, if I was ever in a gunfight, it was going to be like arm's distance. We were going to be fighting. Somebody was going to figure out that I was a cop, or somebody would recognize me, and it would be a last-ditch effort. And here's what I thought about. I may not win the gunfight with this, but if I can get 4 or 5 of these in you, you're either going to show up at the hospital or the morgue, and the rest of the cops are going to be able to figure out who it was that got me. So it's and the other reason I chose 38 over 380 was the 380 was about the same size gun, especially in the Kel-Tec, but 7 in the magazine, 1 in the chamber. It's an 8-round gun when you got it loaded full. So, and the other thing was, and it's empty. Nothing there. Nothing in the mag well. The other reason I liked it was because of the pocket clip, and I'm hoping you guys can see this okay, but when we had to qualify, we had to stand and be able to draw and qualify. This allowed me to get a decent draw on this little bitty gun and get it out of my pocket and make my shots. So, and it carried well. Most people that looked at it thought it was a pocket knife that had a pocket clip on it. Hoping you can kind of see that. But, I mean, totally easy to get out if you can get your thumb behind and under the grip, right? So you hook the back side of the grip with your thumb. Draws pretty nice. And actually, it shoots really nice for being such a small gun. And we're going to go down and look at the target here in a minute. Like I said, 5.5 yards. That's much further away than this, than you and I fighting. But I figured if I could qualify with it on our duty qualification, which some of those shots are out to 25 yards, and believe it or not, yeah, some of them did get thrown, but the majority of our shots in our qualification are 15 yards and in, because even as a uniformed cop, most gunfights happen within 15 yards. So I was always able, I qualified with a gun just like this for 4 years in a row, and I was always able to qualify. So it served me very well. Now, the one that I had, by the time I got rid of it, the finish was completely gone. I had sweated on it. Back then, we would work 18-hour days. Was not unusual. And I would go home to take a shower to get ready for court the next day or whatever. I just lay it right there on the countertop in the bathroom. It would get condensation on it. I would sweat on it. It was in terrible shape to look at, but mechanically, it ran just fine. And as far as I know, the guy that took my place when I left narcotics that I sold it to had it throughout his time in narcotics, and it served him very well, and he was able to qualify with it for, I'm trying to think of who even took my place, but neither here nor there. That gun's probably still out there somewhere. Probably looks like it's been used for a fence stretcher and drugged behind a pickup truck, but it's probably still running. You can see thus far it's run pretty flawlessly. I think we've ran probably, I don't know, 30, 35 rounds through it, and I've probably got 30 or 40 rounds through it before today. So one of the things I did do was picked up some Federal Hydroshock 32 ACP because our policy does require that we carry an expanding bullet for any use that you're going to relate to law enforcement, even if you're off duty. So we're going to run a magazine full of these through there. I haven't run these through, but my last one, it functioned flawlessly with them. So here we go with some Hydroshocks. Let's see what happens. Uh-oh. So there's a malfunction right there. And this gun just may need some break-in because it has not had that much stuff put through it. But you can see it's in the barrel. It just did not get all the way up there. So and that finished them off. So even though there was a malfunction, it's pretty easy to clear, but we probably need to run several magazines of that Hydroshock through there to get the gun broke in. I gave it a basic cleaning, and then I started shooting it, and it hasn't been cleaned since. So anyway, the one that I had before served me so well that when I saw this one laying in the gun shop, I said, you know what? That would work out super good for just a summertime gun, right? So they call this a belt clip. You can put it on in your waistband, or you can put it in your pocket. I normally put it in my pocket. But I remembered 23 years ago that this gun was such a nice gun to carry, and it was not bad to shoot, that I went ahead and bought it. And you can see that all these are semi-rapid fire. They're not, I'm not taking my time. It's not slow fire, but I'm simulating a combat condition. Let's see if we can get the phone out of here and walk down and take a look. Well, I tell you what, let me back up to where I was standing. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Actually, I'm right at 7 yards. So you can see it's all right here. So not slouchy for a gun that you're going to use to, I mean, basically this is a gun that you're going to use when something presents itself and you just don't have anything else, and a butter knife just simply won't work. Like I said, you know, you look at, heck, the German military's standard issue sidearm in World War II was a 32 ACP until 1970, I think 74. The standard issue for the German Federal Police was 32 ACP, the Walther PPK. So the 32 is not necessarily a complete slouch. The magazine release on this is standard American type, button on the side. I only have one magazine. I couldn't find another one, so I've got a couple on order, because I used to carry my gun in one pocket, the spare magazine in the other, which I'll probably start doing again. But I had forgotten how much I really enjoyed this little pistol from the days that I carried it every day for 4 years straight. And like I said, some folks, what prompted this was questions by people in the comment section of other posts about our policy and whether or not I was good to carry a particular gun. But the other thing is, and I've said this 1,000 times, and I think I just said it a while ago, the best gun you can possibly have in a gunfight is one that you actually have with you. And if this is something that you're willing to carry and shoot and practice with, and it's not necessarily cheap to practice with, but what's your life worth, right? So if you can get a dependable $250 gun, then spend $100 on a few hundred rounds of ammunition. Take it out, put it through its paces, see where it shoots for you, see if there's any problems with it, and if it's one that you'll carry, then by God, carry it. I'd rather see somebody carrying a gun that part of the people think is substandard and never need it than somebody having a really cool gun, like a $3,000 race gun that they won't carry. And, you may not, I had a guy say years ago, you may not need a steak knife for every meal, but if you lay one on the table, it's always there. So, the Kel-Tec P32, going back to my old dope cop days, 2002 to 2006, I was assigned to narcotics and carried it on that pocket clip, was able to get, and I think I showed you guys this already, I was able to get a decent draw out of my pocket. I was able to qualify with it, and it turned out to be, and as odd as this sounds, because even back then it was a $185 gun or something, turned out to be one of the guns that I really regretted getting rid of. And when I saw one in a local gun shop here 2 weeks ago or whatever it was, I shot them my best price, which was like $250, I think, and I think I wound up walking out of there with it for $240 plus tax. So, I mean, you could certainly do a lot worse. And when I say that, you could do a lot worse by not carrying a gun. If you'll carry it, by all means, it's a great gun. You just watched here. The only thing we had a problem with was the hydroshocks, and that may be because the gun's so new. But if you are interested in a pocket gun, by all means, give the Kel-Tec P32 a look, because I can tell you from 4 years of working undercover and carrying this and qualifying with it and shooting it fairly regularly, it's not a bad gun for the price point. So anyway, Sheriff Matt Aller at Audrain County, I hope you guys have a great day.